Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but today we are going to go over another article on this website. And I'll read the article and I'll do a commentary on the way. So, first thing first, we have to decide which article to do. So, last time, I'm pretty sure I did Introduction to Grinning Deer. So, this time we're just going to go down the articles and press more feedback on Grinning Deer. We'll see what that's about. So, okay, so we can see here this article was made back in 2024, in December 17th, 2024, and we're just going to get right into this. Feedback to grinning deer. People may wonder about the creature of the grinning deer. Okay, so the creature of the grinning deer. I'm pretty sure the person writing this article made a mistake. They probably want to say the creature, the grinning deer, not creature of the grinning deer. That makes no sense, but moving on. What is a grinning deer? They fall into the category of skinwalkers, yet they aren't quite skinwalkers. Okay, first of all, very good question here. What is a grinning deer? That is a good question. One of the most controversial questions of all time, in fact. Many people have come up with theories as to what a grinning deer can be. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous, while some are good theories based on actual evidence. But there is no theory that is completely there's no theory that is like the number one theory of grinning deer. There are just several different theories. Grinning deer history, teriaceology, all that stuff is very little known, so people are just kind of researching and trying to study theory upon theory until they find one good theory on what a grinning deer is, and then hopefully soon they'll find one and stick to that. Okay, and then it says they fall into the category of skinwalkers, yet they aren't quite skinwalkers. That's an interesting statement. So saying that they fall into the category of skinwalkers, you'd think it would imply that it is a skinwalker, but it says here they aren't quite skinwalkers. And then it says, true, skinwalkers are demon-possessed animals, dead or alive, and even perhaps humans. The grinning deer are not really what you call a skinwalker, though they do look as if you're looking at a skinwalker. Okay, this entire sentence, I'm a little confused by it. So skinwalkers are demon-possessed animals, dead or alive. I thought they were just dead, but okay. And even perhaps humans. So apparently humans can become skinwalkers too. That is kind of scary to think about. But grinning deer are not really what you call a skinwalker. Okay. Here is some advice. Okay, so actually, no, going back, it doesn't really explain why grinning deer aren't quite skinwalkers. If the definition of a skinwalker is demon-possessed animals, dead or alive, and grinning deer are demon-possessed animals, dead or alive, then why can't you put them in the category of skinwalkers? That is a good question, I'd say. But anyway, moving on. Here's some advice. Never look into the eyes of a grinning deer. So, yeah, obviously you don't want to look at a grinning deer in the eyes. That would be terrifying. If it happens, you die, or some more descriptive way of saying it will be taking your soul. So, yes, um, looking in the eyes of a grinning deer at first, you say, like, what's the danger of doing that? Why can't I just look at it? What's the worst that can happen? But as it says here, you'll die, or it'll take your soul. Or you'll die because it takes your soul. Obviously, you die when your soul gets separated from your body. So, moving on. The demon then can feed on the soul for 5 to 6 weeks. That must be pretty terrible to have a demon feed onto your soul for 5 or 6 weeks. That is pretty terrifying to think about. After the demon satisfies itself with your soul, it will eat your flesh to preserve the health of their host. Okay, yes, apparently they'll do that. So even so, they can still preserve their host while just eating some rabbits. Okay, so they eat rabbits to preserve the flesh of their host, I believe. Most reasons because people have not heard of these dangerous creatures is because they only live in places at times. Okay, that sentence does not look very grammatically correct, so most reasons, I'll just kind of make it make more sense. I think what he's trying to say is most reasons why people haven't heard of these dangerous creatures is because they only live in places at times. Only live in places at times. Now, what does that exactly mean? Oh, so they only live in places at times, so that they don't live in the correct place in order to see the green deer, which is why green deer are not very much heard about. I think that's what he's trying to get at. They're in the north woods all year round. So yeah, that would explain it then. Like, you hardly ever see anybody in the north woods unless your plane crashes when you're flying over Canada. But yeah, you never really see anybody in the north woods. There are actually some stories about missing people in the north woods. Um, and many more stories about things that have happened in the North Woods. They're just strange. So mostly because of the trees, how they can have hiding places to lurk in and finding animals to devour. So yes, the North Woods, very thick forests, very vast. So like the chances of you seeing a grinning deer is like 1 in a million. And also they have hiding places, so specific hiding places, so they don't get spotted, and finding animals to devour. Which, yeah, there are other animals in the North Woods for them to hunt out and devour so they can preserve the flesh of their host. Moving on. Grinning deer live throughout the world during the summer, but in the winter there are no hiding places. The grass and crops are deemed to be great hiding places. So I believe what he's trying to say is, um, they live all over during the summer, but in winter, so there are hiding places during the summer, but there aren't any during the winter. And when the crops throughout the winter, or I mean fall in the Midwest get harvested, so that must mean that the graying deer leave the Midwest after the summer. And I guess that applies to other places too, where grass and crops, they're deemed to be great hiding places, but of course they can't hide during the winter. Moving on. During the winter, they hide in the mountains and the woods. So the mountains and the woods, of course, good hiding places, except maybe not the mountains so much, because, Rocky Mountains, I don't believe that grinning deer live anywhere in the Rocky Mountains, because they don't live in the Rocky Mountain West. I believe there's an article about that on this website. It's about grinning antelope. I might look at that over sometime and do commentary on that, but anyway. As an American, I don't know much about foreign grinning deer, but the places where they migrate are the Rockies and the North Woods. So the writer, as an American, says he doesn't know much about foreign grinning deer. So he knows about the grinning deer in America, but not much about foreign grinning deer. But the places where they migrate are the Rockies and North Woods. Now, that's not exactly true. Grinning antelope sometimes, well, if you classify grinning antelope in the grinning deer category, then you could technically say that they do migrate to the Rockies, but grinning antelope migrate to the Rockies, not grinning deer. Um, so we got the Rockies and the North Woods. The North Woods, definitely yes. Uh, the grinning deer do migrate to the North Woods, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ontario, and all the provinces wherever the North Woods are, and states. But also, some grinning deer prefer to stay where they are. So that's true. Some grinning deer, specifically the ones who are terrorizing towns and cities, will leave the urban areas during the winter to just outside of the city. So not they kind of stay where they are, just in the same area, just not in the city. They go into the country. This was more feedback on grinning deer, brother. Okay, and it looks like 5 likes. So yeah, this article, there are quite a few errors, both grammatically and informationally. I mean, regarding information, like not all of the things that this guy is saying is true. Specifically about grinning deer migrating to the Rockies. Grinning deer don't live west of the Rockies. They don't live in the Rockies either. They don't live west of the Midwest. Uh, uh, Basically. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say, or I would correct when he's saying this. But anyway, let's look at these comments here. One response to this article. Noah Price, December 20th, 2024 at 7:07 p.m. He asks the question, after stealing your soul, don't they spread your entrails? Good question. After stealing their soul, they're most likely they most likely don't really care about your body, but if they want to do so, they might spread your entrails. I'm not really sure. But overall, this is a pretty good article regarding grinning deer. As I said before, there isn't much information on grinning deer around the world. There's like none at all. It's very, very controversial topic. So I say, considering that grinning deer is a controversial topic, I say that this is a good article, but there are a few errors. So I might comment on that later. But anyway, that's going to be all for today, and hope you've enjoyed me going over this article. And you can leave a comment down there if you have any questions regarding grinning deer or regarding the YouTube channel at all. What we do, we study grinning deer and what they do basically. But anyway, have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.